Skills and attributes in role-playing games are a form of measurement in what all you can accomplish with your character. GameMasters here, and today we are going to do a deep dive into DC20's attributes, as well as their corresponding skills and what they mean for your character. Attributes is DC20's term for what Dungeons & Dragons calls strength, intelligence, dexterity, wisdom, charisma, and constitution. DC20 uses 4 attributes: might, agility, charisma, and intelligence. And these are fairly self-explanatory, but there's a lot to unpack with each one. Your attribute score is going to range anywhere between -2 and up to +7 as you gain levels, up to level 10. However, your attribute score has a limit of 3. I know we just said 7, but I'll explain in a moment. First, I want to take a look at how you determine your attribute scores. Getting your attribute value happens in one of 3 ways. You can either take a standard array of 3, 1, 0, and -2 and plug them in wherever you want. Then you can take 2 additional attribute points and plug them into whichever attribute you'd like to boost up. You just can't go above 3 in any given stat. You can use the point buy method. You'll start off with -2 in all attributes, but you have 12 points that you can spend however you'd like, just not going above that 3 limit in any given attribute. And if you really like to randomize, you can use the dice rolling method. You'll roll 1d6, subtract 3 from that number. Do that once for each attribute, so you're going to roll 4 times, and plug those numbers in. You then get 2 additional attribute points to plug into whichever attribute you like, but again, you can't go above 3 in any stat. Because this is truly random, it's possible that you could have a perfect 3 in all stats. In this instance, you would not add the 2 bonus attribute points. Likewise, however, you might also roll nothing but 1s, in which case you'd have -2 in all your stats. In that instance, you might want to ask your GM if you can re-roll or use a different method of getting your stats together. However, should you roll your attributes and they're all less than 3, even after adding your 2 attribute points, you can reduce one attribute by 1 or more and then add that to whichever attribute that you want to boost, again abiding by the 3 cap. As you gain levels, you'll also earn more attribute points. And this is when you can go above 3. You'll get 1 additional point at level 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10. Currently, the max level in DC20 is 10, but at 11, you unlock prestige levels, which means that you're going to be able to go above that 3-point cap. And we're going to talk more about prestige levels in a future video. Now that we know how to determine our attribute points, let's take a closer look at them, as well as the skills that they can be used with. Might is your overall physical strength, but it also represents your health and endurance. Nested under might are 2 skills, athletics and intimidation. Athletics encompasses pretty much everything that you do regarding a physical activity. Think climbing a rope, swimming across a swiftly moving river, jumping over a large distance or obstacle, grappling in hand-to-hand combat with another creature, or releasing yourself once you are grappled by one. Perhaps you find yourself in a barehanded stone-smashing competition. Athletics is where that would come into play. Intimidation encompasses your ability to influence others by using a threat, hostile action, or even make them quake in their boots by giving them a forceful command, possibly scare them into doing something under the threat of, "You're going to do this or else." Might also allows you to use certain heavy weapons and heavy armor. For example, should you want to wield a heavy great maul, a 2-handed weapon that can do 3 damage, it has a might requirement of 2. You need to be strong enough to wield it properly after all. Or should you want to use a heavy great axe, it too has a might requirement of 2. And if you would like to wear heavy armor, then that all has a might requirement of 1. Agility is your ability to avoid. It's your dexterity and your finesse. There are certain weapons that have a minimum agility requirement. For example, if you want to use a ranged weapon like a blowgun, a sling, or a short bow, those all have an agility requirement of 1. There are a few ranged weapons that also have both an agility and might requirement, such as a heavy crossbow. So keep that in mind as you decide what type of character it is that you would ultimately like to play. Also keep in mind that this is the alpha version of DC20, so some things are going to be subject to change. I state that because agility also encompasses the acrobatics skill, and the example we are given in the alpha document states that we use acrobatics when making a check to escape grapples. But we also just saw that we make an athletic check, which is under might, for the exact same thing. I reached out to get clarification on this. Do we get to choose which check to make in this instance? Can we use both? If a might check is failed, can we then attempt to make an agility check, or was this simply simply an oversight in the rules. Agility also contributes to jumping. However, we also saw that jumping is nested under athletics, which falls under might checks. And I was told that when you take the jump action, it's the player's choice of making an athletic or acrobatic check. While it wasn't specifically stated about the grapple check that I asked about, I'd imagine that it would be the same, a player's choice. Acrobatics further is described as covering activities that require flexibility, nimbleness, and balance, with balance ranging from things like trying to walk across a slippery surface to staying upright in a rocking boat. Trickery also falls under agility. Think of this as a means of performing a card trick where sleight of hand would be beneficial to you, or forging someone's signature. Even arming or disarming a trap would fall under this skill. Stealth is another skill that also falls under agility, the ability to hide and sneak around without being seen or heard. You'll also use agility to make saves that resist effects that would otherwise slow you down, and your agility is added to your physical defense to help reduce damage taken from physical attacks. Charisma is your charm, your presence, your force of will. It covers your appearance and anything related to social interactions. For example, you may know a few words of a language other than your own. You can make a language check to see if you can understand what was just said. On a side note, you also could use intelligence for a language check as well, and that's your choice as to which attribute to use. There are 3 skills that fall under charisma: animal, insight, and influence. Animal provides to you things like corralling, training, calming, and otherwise gauging the intent of beasts. Should you wish to attempt to tame a wild animal, this is where charisma would come in. Insight is your ability to understand intentions, reading body language, things like facial cues, how someone holds their arms when they speak, but too, it can encompass your gut feeling. For example, if you are at a casino playing blackjack, is that next card out of the shoe going to be an ace or 5? Gut feeling can help you know here if you should double down, hit, or hold. Likewise, you'd use insight to determine if someone was being truthful or deceptive. Influence covers your ability to manipulate a creature's behavior by using compelling arguments. These could be based on truths, lies, or something in between, but you would otherwise use influence to convince people to do what you want. You might even attempt to mislead them with flat-out false claims, or you may try to get all Braveheart and attempt to give an inspiring speech to a large army in an effort to encourage them to fight in a battle. You could also use your influence to negotiate peace between 2 warring factions. Charisma saves are used to help you resist things that would impact your emotions or your dominance of will. And charisma is added to your mystical defense, which is damage that would otherwise damage one's mind or soul. For example, this would be things like psychic or radiant or sonic damage. It is also used in what is called grit points, and we'll go over the various types of points that you get in DC20 in a future video. Intelligence encompasses your ability to reason and understand. It is your worldly wisdom, your capacity to learn, your overall knowledge. As mentioned a moment ago, intelligence can also be used for language checks, but it too is added to your mystical defense. Based on your intelligence, you may gain bonus skill points to be able to gain more skills, and under intelligence, is what is also referred to as knowledge skills: investigation, medicine, and survival. Knowledge will provide to you, knowledge of certain things. Arcana, for example, will let you have an understanding of various magics, planes of existence, but too an understanding of various creatures, perhaps even their weaknesses. So too, knowledge covers history. You'll have a better understanding of historical events, conflicts, but too the historical significance of, say, dragons or lost civilizations in a specific area. Knowledge also covers nature, occultism, and religion. Plus, you can work with your GM to create up a custom lore skill if there is a specific domain of knowledge that you'd like to focus on. Investigation is what it sounds like. You bring forth your inner sleuth. You use your senses and smarts to look for clues, possibly a single drop of blood or a snap twig on the path, and you can make deductions on those to determine which way the assassin went. You can also use your investigation skill to determine how a trap may work so that it can be disarmed, or even research scrolls, books, and manuscripts to find out what would otherwise be hidden knowledge. The medicine skill lets you heal, not through magical means, but through treating and mending or even stabilizing a wounded creature. You may be able to determine what specific poison was used, or even tap into some CSI skills and use forensics to determine the cause of death, or even the time of death. Survival is the skill that you'll use when in the wilderness. It will allow you to forage for food and navigate places you've never been to before. You can attempt to track animals, and of course, hunting those animals would also fall here. But two, you'll also be able to use the survival skill to use the animals that you've hunted for their resources, such as their hide or even extracting venom from a poisonous snake. Intelligence is also used to resist efforts that can read your thoughts, alter your memories, or confuse you. Should someone attempt to craft up an illusion against you, intelligence will also help you see through that as well. There is also an element on the character sheet called Prime. And it's not an attribute, but its value is derived from your highest attribute score. Your Prime modifier is your overall experience and prowess as an adventurer. The score or value of your Prime modifier is always equal to the value of your highest attribute. For example, if your highest attribute is, say, agility, and you have a 3 in that, then your Prime modifier would be a 3. However, if you gain a level later in the game and your agility becomes 4, then your Prime modifier number would change to be that 4. The Prime modifier is the primary bonus that you add to checks that would involve your attack checks, spell checks, awareness checks, and save difficulty checks. But 2, it also adds to your advantage on the various checks that you'll make with it. With advantage being that when you make a check with a 20-sided die, you'll roll 2 d20s instead and take the highest number rolled. Again, keep in mind that the material presented here is subject to change. This information is from the playtest rules preview, and since we have a ways to go before the game is in its final form, there will most likely be a lot of changes made, possibly to the mechanics, but also to the overall visual presentation. My name is Brian, and I've been playing and running role-playing games since the 80s, and I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for joining the video today. I also want to thank my contributing Patreon and YouTube members. They've made it so that I didn't need to take on a sponsored ad, and we kind of all skip those anyway. If today's video was entertaining to you or informational to you, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and leave a comment down below. That all goes a long way to helping this channel to grow. What is another aspect of DC20 that you are looking forward to? What mechanic should we cover next? And remember, we'll be covering the various types of points that you get in this game in a future video. But what else would you like for me to explore or talk about in regards to DC20? Let me know down in the comments, and until next our paths cross, may you get 3s in all of your attributes.